Hello everybody, Andrew Casey from Hypersanity Books. Today we'll be talking about children's stories and family stories. Now some people following this channel are a younger audience, some people are writing for a younger audience. Otherwise there is something to learn within this content. Otherwise let's just get into it. Number 10. Too childish, it's insulting. So there were a few questions that came up in email to the Casper video that I uploaded. Now I do agree. One of the points with the Casper video is Casper has its target audience, and when it was the early comic book form and the children's cartoon, it was aimed at that audience. It's how Steven Spielberg took it and turned it into an absolute work of art for a family movie instead of the target audience for children. Now with the Casper video, yes, there is that trope of different characters seeing a ghost and it's their reaction. So the movie that came out as a supposed prequel, Casper: A Spirited Beginning, I could not watch this movie. This was as a child, years ago, years later. It was a struggle. And I feel it's too stupid to a point it's insulting to children. Children are growing up faster than ever, with the right guidance of their parents, of course. It's not just up to school. The reactions of people, and with these sorts of movies, you look at different characters starring in certain films because it's for children, so they overact, and I feel that's insulting to a child's mind. Number 9, target audience. Now this is a no-brainer of a question, obviously. So what is your target audience? Is your story aimed specifically for a child audience? Is the subject matter aimed towards a resolution in children's stories? One of the things that I do say is ask yourself multiple questions when it comes to these subject matters, and they'll just get your mind going, and that type of brainstorming and taking notes is quite effective. You might have a target audience that it's aimed between 8 to 12, but it has the parental audience to have certain parts of the story threaded through it, and it's about having that time together. Now, yes, there are some children's books where obviously they're picture books, so parents have that time with their children in early childhood reading. And that's where some of the questions come in. But more specifically, that type of book is aimed for that younger child. Though having other stories that are written, like the Roald Dahl books, a lot of his books do aim for the younger audience, but they are also enjoyed by adults. And that's where a lot of Roald Dahl stories do have that adaptation between book to film. Number 8, appealing to children. So with writing your story, yes, it should be appealing to children, especially even for family movies. There has to be that part that's appealing. Now, I had this question come up with the Casper video touching on that. There was the scene that I only touched on the more specific points about the therapy with Dr. Harvey and the ghostly trio. Now, the question that was asked, thank you Chandler for this one. Now, I see where your point was coming forward. Why did Fatso kiss Dr. James Harvey?
Hey, what a dish, Doc!
The little missus, perhaps?
Hubba, hubba!
Fatso, you animal!
You've actually seen her?
What, you think I'm blind? Of course I've seen her. Who hasn't?
What, you're not looking for her, are you, Doc?
Amelia? My man!
So I was breaking down a lot of the characterization, the character interactions between everyone, and how Stretch is the leader of the ghostly trio. So in a lot of the conflict within the story, the ghostly trio are going to listen to him. So when he says, Fatso, you know where she is, his wife, go find her. So that's already building up the story. But the more specific point, why did Fatso do what he did? And it's hard to give a definitive answer to that, because that also then brings me to my next point. Number 7. What seems to be out of character. So with the Fatso kissing Dr. James Harvey, yes, that is out of character. Now, yes, he saw the photo of Amelia Harvey, though I think the appeal to the younger audience was the fact that Fatso was purposely to not look like her, to make a mockery of the joke and of the therapy. Because if the story went into too much more detail, it's drawing away from the main plot, if that makes sense to the question. Now, I feel that Fatso in that moment, yes, he was so out of character that it didn't make sense to do what he did. Now, there are other parts of the story and other things that I do see in different stories where, down to the bottom line, characters do something and someone's pants falls down.
All for one and one for all. Change your pants before they fall.
I don't like seeing this in any kind of stories. I think it's put in there as a vulnerability to the person, because there's that factor, like I mentioned in the Ghostbusters 2 video, where if you have characters facing against a ghostly form, face death, you're talking about a very different subject matter and a different target audience. Though the appeal to why this happens in stories, I don't go for it, I don't understand it, it's there, but I think some things happen out of character a little too much in some stories, and that's always a question to ask yourself. Is this something the character would do? Number 6. It's only going to get worse. So with this point, into the other points, I will get to more positive points. With this point, it does focus on a lot of the negatives, and that's where, to everything that's been discussed so far, that is one thing to always ask yourself. Is it only going to get better with your story, or is it only going to get worse? Number 5, 50-50 balance between target audience. I think certain stories, so Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the book, is appealing to all different age groups. That's why it was able to be adapted into a family movie. I showed a video to my son about the never-ending story on certain facts about it, and he pointed out that the character Teeny Weeny is Deep Roy. Now, in the remake movie, talking about that, I could not see that that was him.
Augustus Gloop, the great bakery evening compute.
He has absolute talent for facial recognition between characters. So it became more engaging to watch Charlie and the Chocolate Factory a second time, and you get more out of it. Looking at the subject matter, there is so much of an appeal to a younger audience. Now, some of the sing-along parts in movies I don't normally like. I actually didn't mind this one, and there were certain aspects of the film. I do want to compare the book now, but there were certain themes within the story that were appealing to an older audience. There were a lot of questions, and my son also asked me a deep question, and this is where the balance is brilliant for a story.
Willie?
Hi, Dad.
My son asked the question, how did his father not know who his child is? And that's a very deep question, but there is an appeal to the heartbreak of an adult, and then there is the other appeal to the younger audience going for their dreams, and that resolution within the story is something quite positive. Number 4, born sexy yesterday trope.
But dreams do come true, and maybe something wonderful will happen.
Yeah, well, I forgot who I was talking to.
Now, this is not exactly what people think it is. The movie Enchanted is comparing a Disney-like character coming into our world, and with the appeal to the story to be a family movie, it's got the adult themes of the character, the protagonist, who is developing feelings for the deuteragonist character to the situation. So a lot of the adult subject matter is in there, and that works so well for the story.
And when you go out, you don't want to wear too much makeup, because otherwise the boys get the wrong idea. They're only after one thing.
What's that?
I don't know. Nobody will tell me.
To never be with the one you love, doomed to be with another for eternity.
It's also comparing the mentality of the character to a child. So again, to the other point previously, this works. Now, for some of the appeal, I don't like this trope done because, as previously mentioned, it can lead too far into insanity. It can be unappealing. This actually was engaging and worked because of how it was appealing to both target audiences. Number 3, simple to understand. So this is quite healthy, where I find some people want a deeper, meaningful story, a more complicated story, and sometimes it's just effective not to have something too complicated. Now, I'm not saying that children's stories have to be too simple, or family stories. I'm definitely not saying that at all. What I am saying with that, sometimes you can touch on a difficult subject in a simple way to help the reader come to some understanding of what's being written and understanding a certain part of the subject matter that's difficult to understand. Does your reader understand what you're saying within the book? Number 2, Goodbye, Christopher Robin.
I'd really like if you wrote a book for me. I'd definitely read it.
Shall we go for a walk?
Aren't you working?
It doesn't seem likely. I'm putting your bear in a book. Or putting you in it too.
What will you call me in the book?
Your real name, Christopher Robin.
This movie is brilliant. I will be doing a video about it at a later date. With the movie, it has adult subject matter in it that's quite heavy, talking about PTSD, World War I. So within this story, there is a lot of subject matter that's not for children. However, it is presented in a way that's appealing to an adult audience and to a children's audience. Now, for the children's side of the story, it's how Winnie the Pooh was made, and it's how Christopher Robin was playing, how the father was able to work on the story. Now, there are different elements of real-life conflicts to this true story that's within this movie. So, I don't know what's real, I don't know what's not, or how to cross-reference certain things. One thing I do know is you can learn a lot from this story, so that's why I will be doing a video on it. Number 1, ask me questions. I do have email form to be contacted. There are restrictions, so no, I won't be doing any sorts of film chats or anything like that. I do need to keep certain boundaries with people that I don't know. However, more in the comments section, give a few comments, I'll reply, and I can answer certain questions to some extent. I will be doing different videos that are more specific to certain subject matter. The idea of this video was to just give a broader idea about children's stories and family stories, what I like, what I don't like, what works, what doesn't work. Ultimately, with whatever it is that you're doing, you also just need to make your own decisions on that. Otherwise, that's it for today. Hit like, subscribe, comment. I will be posting more videos about writing for children and for families, but that's another story and shall be told another time.